My dad's birthday is September 25th.
Okay, Lord. Please.
Yeah, and Chris, right. And Debbie is, yeah, and Debbie is vice president. Yeah. Yeah, Debbie's area. And,
Right, let's, everyone's attention, please. May I please have your attention? Ladies, gentlemen, may I please have your attention? I don't think y'all are listening. Linda, Carol. Can we get y'all's attention, please? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut y'all off, but, you know, we're past the time. We usually start at the 30 mark. I just wanted to welcome everyone today. We are live streaming. We do have, you know, sometimes up to 7,000 people in different groups. So we go back and forth and we dump that in there. So even if this room, we usually have anywhere between 20, 30 people here, but we have a lot of people who will be paying attention and watching. First, I want to welcome everyone here to the Women's Republican Club of New Orleans. We are the oldest club in the state of Louisiana. And it is an honor and a blessing to be here. Most of us are patriots, and we believe in the Constitution, and we are fighting for our constitutional rights, for our families, our families. It's affecting our families. It's affecting us individually. And so we are here to be a voice for those who want to fight for the Constitution and stand up for what's right. Today we have a candidate who is running for a Jefferson Parish judge seat. He's running against Jacqueline Maloney, and many of you already know how I feel about her, but we'll keep it positive. Her name is Lindsay Valenti, and she has a Zoom in 10 minutes, and so we're going to let her come on and speak real quick, okay? Let's welcome Lindsay Valenti.
Thank you so much, Martha, and thank you for being here today and giving me this opportunity to speak with you. My name is Lindsay Valenti, and I am running for judge of the 24th Judicial District Court, Division D. Early voting is today and tomorrow, and the election is next Saturday, April 27th. A little bit about me. For the last 8 years, I've served as the Chief Attorney to Sheriff Joe Pinto and the men and women of the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office. I am third-generation law enforcement, so I have a very good understanding on what it means to want to keep our parish safe. That's how I grew up. Prior to working for the sheriff, I was in private practice where I handled a high volume of cases trying to help clients get the justice that they deserve in the courtroom. I am a lifelong registered Republican, born and raised in Jefferson Parish, and I was born and raised into a family committed to public service. I mentioned I'm third generation law enforcement. My grandfather and my father both served as JPSO sheriff's deputies. My grandmother drove a school bus for the Jefferson Parish school system for 40 years. And my mom worked for an agency that addressed the needs of those suffering from mental illness, addictive disorders, and those challenged by developmental disabilities. So I really come from a very well-rounded background in all areas of public service. I've dedicated my career to public service, and I'm looking at this as the next step and an opportunity to affect and help our community on a larger scale. I'm very proud to be here, and again, I really do thank you for the opportunity. It was a privilege to serve the sheriff and the sheriff's deputy. While they were out on the street protecting you and your family, I was working hard to protect them. If you have any questions, I have very limited time, so I do apologize for running in and out if something came up unexpectedly. But if not, I really encourage you to, if you would consider voting for me, and also to reach out to all of your friends and family on the East Bank of Jefferson Parish to encourage them to vote as well. It's going to be a very low turnout, so every vote is really going to count.
Can you tell us a little bit about your war chest and your fundraising in comparison to Ms. Maloney?
Sure. When I started building my team back in the fall, I was fortunate enough to build a very strong team with, the support of Sheriff Newell Norman, Sheriff Joe Pinto, Parish President Cynthia Lee Shang, among others, District Attorney Paul Connick. I built a team of a finance committee of strong attorneys in our area that believed in me and what I bring to the table and what I can bring to the bench. And they worked very hard to raise the funds we needed to get our message out. In the primary, we raised over $300,000, and in the quick runoff period, we raised over $100,000. Which is multiple times over what my opponent has been able to raise. And it's not just what the amount of the dollars, I think it's what those dollars signify, and it signifies support, and it signifies belief in my message and what I can do to help our community, and that is what my role is. So thank you for the question.
Anyone else?
Well, I have seen a lot more of your signs.
Well, thank you very much. I can tell you that I have worked diligently, personally, to put up those signs. This campaign has definitely been a family effort. I'm very close with my family, and I am proud to say when I made this decision, we made it together, and they dropped everything to help me. And my dad and I, all those big signs you see up there, he and I put those up together, and the little signs, I put the majority of those myself. So we've been working very hard from a small scale to a large scale. So I'm very proud of the race that we've run. I'm very proud of my support team, and I'm very proud to have the support of the people that voted for me. So thank you. Thank y'all so much. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Y'all have a great life.
One thing's for sure, we are praying for you. We do want justice to prevail, and we want someone sitting in that seat who's actually going to advocate for families and not against the family, the core of the family. Okay, so we definitely. And the other candidate is allowed and welcome to come here. She used to be a member of the Women's Republican Club in New Orleans. And so she is welcome to come and speak to our members. because we don't silence voices, right? We allow every candidate to come and speak. Right, that's right. So, well, we have our own battles in the Republican side, to not even worry about what the liberals are doing. We have a lot of issues within our own party, and the Republicans are, in my opinion, sometimes even more equally corrupt than some of the Democrats. Ladies, this is live streaming. Please be respectful. It's live streaming. Thank you. So we do have a lot of issues on the Republican side that we do need to correct, and that's why we're doing what we're doing. You know, this is why we're going to bring in Mr. Tutt. He is Mr. Henry Kinney. They call him Tutt, T-U-T, the founding partner of Kinney and Ellinghausen. Did I say correct? Has served as general counsel for the Audubon Commission since 1976, as special counsel for the Board of Commissioners for the Port of New Orleans, the Housing Authority of New Orleans, and the State of Louisiana Division of Administration. Prior to entering private practice, he was an assistant city attorney for the City of New Orleans. Mr. Kinney has extensive trial and appellate experience in all of Louisiana's courts, spanning a variety of litigation and transactional matters. He received his bachelor's degree in political science in 1969 and his law degree from Tulane University in 1973. Please let's welcome Mr. Tutt. He's going to be speaking a little bit on the sale of Bluecross to Elevance and also on some of the constitutional matters. We welcome you. Thank you, sir. Oh.
I guess it's good afternoon. Close to. Let me give you a little background on what I'm going to discuss. I'll expand it a little bit past the Bluecross transaction. I think it's important that all of us be aware of two matters that are in front of the legislature right now. That is, one, the public records restraints that are being considered, and secondly, the constitutional revisions. So I'm going to start with the Bluecross. I'll go through that. It's, you know, it's interesting to me. It may be a little dry for you, but it has a few players that are interesting. But I would also like to just start you all on a discussion on what's going on in the legislature with public records and the Constitution. January of last year, I was reading something called the Baton Rouge Business Report. And in the Baton Rouge Business Report, it said that the Bluecross, Louisiana Bluecross, was going to essentially disband, sell its assets, and give its money not to the members of Bluecross, but to give its members money to a special group that was, quote, a foundation. So I saw that and I was not terribly aware of my own membership interest in Bluecross. So I pulled out my card and I said, well, I'm a member. And then I started to delve in. It struck me as singularly unfair that the money of Bluecross was going to go to these 4 board members to administer. So I started getting into it, making public records requests, asking a bunch of questions, and I'll tell you what I found out and where this led. Bluecross of Louisiana is called Louisiana Health Service Indemnity Company, Inc., Bluecross Blue Shield of Louisiana. A lot of us are insured by Bluecross for our health insurance. We get there by a bunch of different ways. Some of us old people are members by being on a Medicare supplement. Some are our employers provide membership and provide health insurance. Some are insured through the state of Louisiana. But the Bluecross system in Louisiana is owned by the members, no different than any other mutual association, no different than your church, no different than this club. It is owned by the members and not by the board or not by individuals. So I started to look at this and I realized and I'm going to use pejorative terms, but I mean them. What a scam this was. And the scam was designed to curry favor with the various parties and administrators that were going to approve this deal. There are 11 members of the board of Blue Cross Blue Shield. 4 of them were going to take $3.2 billion with a B and run that as they saw fit. Now, you're saying, come on, that can't be true. But if you don't believe me, not believe me, if you have questions, ask me. What I'm telling you is absolutely correct. The articles of incorporation of this foundation had a paragraph that was this long that said that they could do anything they wanted with the $3.2 billion. They were going to give essentially $200 million with an M to the members, and they were going to sell the entirety of the Blue Cross system to a company called Elevance. Elevance is about as bad as it comes also. At the time, and I haven't followed up in the last month or so, at the time Elevance was facing a very serious lawsuit for fraud in the delivery of healthcare services. They have one of the most expansive fines for lack of provision of healthcare, is over $1 billion in fines. So I got involved in this, and one thing led to another, and there's a couple of people I want to call out for applause for what they have done. And I have to be very honest, I don't always agree with the advocate, but the advocate did an incredible job. A reporter by the name of Stephanie Regal stayed on this story, dealt with it truthfully, and the editors and administration of the advocate did an incredible job. And they did that job in light of tremendous advertising by Blue Cross. So I do want to mention the advocate and give them a lot of praise for what they did. There also was a group of various people around the state that got involved and raised a ruckus. The most leadership we received was from a senator from Lake Charles, Jeremy Stein. Really fine young man, and I would ask all of us to keep him in mind as for future leadership within the state. He and Senator Patrick McMath and Senator Kurt Talbot convened a hearing in July of 2023. And it was an extraordinary experience because it was one of those instances where government really, really worked. Those senators, and it was a joint committee and representatives, went at this deal like there was no tomorrow. They delved into it, they asked the hard questions. As a result of that, the public sort of steamrolled and became more involved. The ruckus that was caused, at the time, Attorney General Jeff Landry said, stop the process. I want to take a look at the anti-competitive natures of the sale. It got put off once till October. Landry again said, I want to take another look at it, and I'm going to conduct a study. We're going to conduct a study on whether this is good for Louisiana or not. This is in November. So it went away. On December the 15th, it comes back again. Now, at that time, things really started to heat up. The first question we asked was, what's new about this deal that was different from the first deal? Here's the part that has a little meat on the bones. What was different about this deal is the 4 members that I told you about that were going to take the $3.2 billion of the trust. All of a sudden, And by the way, they had testified that they were going to be paid the same amount of money that trustees of the 10 largest trusts in the United States get paid for their services as trustees on this foundation. So then we look at the new plan. What does the new plan have? It has a new board member. And who's the new board member? Who gets to appoint the new board member?
The insurance commissioner or the governor.
Both. You're both right. The governor, first of all, and I don't say this like, and I say it subject to anybody calling me and saying I'm wrong, or anybody wanting to debate me on the facts, but I took a deposition on February the 9th, and I can promise you and show you the deposition. This is what happened. Governor Landry got to appoint one of the commissioners at full salary, and Tim Temple got to appoint one of these board members also. How did that come about? It came about because there was a secret meeting in Governor Landry's office in November of 2023. At the meeting was Landry, Commissioner Temple, who was supposed to be the insurance commissioner. He's the one that's supposed to be the judge of whether this plan gets approved or not. Okay? And this fella, Tim Barfield, who is running the new foundation. So they have the secret meeting, and out of the secret meeting comes exactly what I told you. Landry gets an appointment, Temple gets an appointment, and Barfield stays on, and they all make the deal. And they made the deal that brought about the new transaction that was proposed in front of Temple. So Temple is supposed to be the judge. I'm sorry, Miss Lindsay, it's not here. Because judges are never supposed to prejudge anything, nor are they supposed to get something in return that if they judge it in a certain way, they get to appoint somebody to the board. So the situation really got heated up. We were able to raise some money, and the money was used to influence the members who were going to vote. The only way it could have gone forward is if Blue Cross had 66 2/3 of the membership vote in favor of it. And we did a good job. We got it down. When I took the depositions that I just mentioned to you, they were at 60% and dropping with the proxies and the vote. So they knew they could not win, and they withdrew it the day or the night before the hearing. So the entirety of what happened was this. Blue Cross has an enormous amount of money. They have about $1 billion in excess reserves. All right? That's our membership money. They were also going to sell it for $2.5 billion to Elevance. So in essence, the whole program, the $2.5 billion and the sale to Elevance has been blown up. Interestingly, there are a couple of pieces of legislation that are still pending. One is by Senator McMath that is not a great thing for the members of Blue Cross, and others by the same Senator Stein that I talked about previously. That is a good piece of legislation. Both of these pieces of legislation are supposedly dealing with to stop this if it ever happened in the future. We have been told by Blue Cross that they don't intend on doing this. They're going back to just trying to provide good health care insurance for the members and their policyholders. You may have seen a lot of full-page ads in the newspaper saying what a great deal Blue Cross is. I'm a Blue Cross member. I want Blue Cross to survive, and I want it to do a great job.
So by member, you mean policyholder?
It's two different things. All members are policyholders, but not all policyholders are members. There are about 92,000 members, which are supplement people, employers, and individuals. and 1.8 million policyholders. So and that's in itself sort of a screwball way to run the deal, because the money that got distributed were not going to the policyholders. They were going to go to the members, and I'm the member of that. But the takeaway from what I am telling you is a few people, at most 10, were able to stop a $3.5 billion deal that had so much momentum and so much money spent to put together, to jam this down through the insurance commission. The 10 people with a limited amount of resources, but with the wind behind our backs, with the press and the public, we had a lot of information. We were well treated by the press. We were able to stop this transaction. So never think that you cannot stop something that is wrong. So the other thing is, I do, and Helen, we get. Don't lose sight of the fact that now Governor Landry promised, and I'm a Landry supporter. I was a Landry supporter. So ideologically, I can't say that I'm opposed ideologically to what I believe he originally stood for. But I can tell you this, that the promised report that was coming on whether this was a good deal or not did not come. Never happened, never got produced. And I can also tell you that he and Tim Temple, who's a Republican, ran unopposed, sat in a room in which they carved up this deal for their benefit. So that's the truth. That is the absolute truth. So in terms of what's happened, it looks like we've won. We're pushing now in the next couple of weeks to have a meaningful role in the selection of the board of Bluecross. Here's a little factoid for you folks. Do you know how many people have voted for a board of directors of Bluecross in the last 30 years?
0.
Who says 0? 0. They steal your proxy in the application. When you sign up and say, I'd like to get Bluecross, paragraph 31, fine print says, I appoint the Bluecross board as my proxy. I didn't know this. So the votes for the board of directors are 144,000 to 0 because individuals don't vote. Now, what does that mean? Here's a couple of statistics, right? Guess how much you get to serve on the Bluecross board? $100,000. $105,000 is a minimum, and the highest is $165,000. Now try that one out, to serve on the Bluecross board. The Bluecross board. So, you know, can you imagine the self-perpetuation? Self-perpetuation. It's as if the people in this room got together and said, let's not ever let the members have a meaningful vote. Let's steal their proxy. They don't get to vote, and we will stay on. The longest serving member has been on there for 29 years.
Wow.
Okay, 29 years. So I am in the process of trying to bring about meaningful change of the election of the board of directors.
Thank you.
Okay, well, it's a struggle, but a struggle got us this far, and a little bit of a struggle going forward to change 144,000 to 0 is something that I think is worthwhile doing.
Yeah.
All right, let me morph in. Helen, you answer a question about Bluecross? Okay. Yeah. No question.
I do, okay. So, trying to see how Louisiana fits in with Blue Cross of Texas or South Carolina.
Blue Cross of Texas is privately owned. I have advocated that if we have to change Blue Cross in the future, we merge it with maybe Blue Cross of Mississippi, Alabama, which are member-owned. And let me jump ahead of you for just a half a second, because I didn't mention this. Member-owned means we should control what our healthcare is, not a private entity like Elevance. That's very, very, very important. So if we don't like our premiums, we vote one way. If we don't like the amount of money that the providers, our doctors and hospitals are receiving, we can vote a different way. But it's within our control. Had Elevance won this thing, that an Indiana publicly traded entity that we would have had no control. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm just really confused about this because I have Blue Cross through my employer. And I know being in HR, we sit down at the table, Blue Cross, and they present us with plans. Then we choose the plan for our employees. Okay, and then of course we negotiate the premium and yada, 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 and then they pay for it, we pay for half of it. So if you were with an employer, you really don't have anything. I mean, like, you're not talking about people with employers, right? Employee-based Blue Cross Blue Shield plan thing.
Well, your employer, is it a private employer?
Yes,
Okay.
and they're based out of like Virginia.
Okay, your employer probably negotiates, do you negotiate your Louisiana policy separately?
They no, we go through our parent company.
Yeah, and your parent company has probably, they may have Blue Cross of Texas, they may have Blue Cross of Virginia or anything else. So your company, if it pays premiums to Blue Cross of Louisiana, if they pay your company is the member. No differently than I'm a member as a supplement holder. So your company.
Medicare, Medicare.
Well, there are a couple of stages. If you're on Medicare, you can either be on Medicare Advantage, Medicare Nothing, or Medicare Supplement. I'm not giving advice, but I have the supplement, which I think is the best. Your company is the member. So your company got a vote, which they probably just threw in the garbage can, because they just like a proxy thing.
Okay, if they're based out of Virginia, does it encompass Louisiana since you're Louisiana? Does it have to go to Blue Cross in Louisiana?
Who has to go to Blue Cross?
Parent company.
No, they can do, it's up to your mother company to decide who they want to have insurance. They could have it with other healthcare providers, United, or whatever. But generally, Blue Cross is a tiny bit more expensive, but it's the best coverage that you can get in Louisiana. Now, go ahead.
I have family that live in Texas, that they're members of the Advantage plan, the supplement, the Medicare of Blue Cross of Louisiana. And they're having lots of trouble getting things paid. And I don't know if it's because they're not Blue Cross of Texas, but they've had nothing, and I don't know if the companies are aware of the sold that particular type of product, but they're having a lot of trouble, and they're medical people, so they know how to do the system, but they're having a lot of trouble.
There's a lot of things that follow, that if you're, let's say you're in an Advantage, are they Medicare Advantage?
It's their supplement.
Okay, their supplement.
Stuff.
Yeah, which is, is much better because it allows you to go out of plan.
Right, exactly.
Whereas
And
Advantage, you have to stay within the plan. I do know that Texas is a little tougher Blue Cross than the member-owned Blue Cross in Louisiana. But let me briefly move on to a couple other things that I'd like to make you aware of that are non-Blue Cross related. The greatest ability, we have two laws in Louisiana. that are better than any other state in the union and better than anywhere on this planet. That's open public meetings. There can never be a decision made that's not made at an open meeting. But more importantly, more important than public meetings is the public records law. I have filed probably some of the arguably the most public records requests over my 51-year career in Louisiana. And I've answered as many because of the public boards and agencies and commissions that I've represented in my career. The ability to go into a public entity, any public entity, and get their records is just the answer to keeping your eyes on government. Because if I came into your house and said, listen, I'm going to go to your computer and I'm going to look at every email you sent, I'm going to go through your checkbook, and I'm going to learn more about you than you know, keeps you from doing the bad things, or should keep you from doing the bad things. But that is the ability that a citizen has to have public records. It is enormous. And you can find out easily what every agency has done. And that's how the press functions. The press is not going to be able to function when they're limited in the public record. Governor Landry, as well as others, are now supporting incredible restrictions on access to public records. Please, 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 write to your senators and your representatives and everybody else you know and say you are against restricting access to public records. Now, here's the mother lode. Here's the mother
What's
lode.
the bill number?
I think it's 482.
Yeah, but I sent you the article.
482.
482.
Yeah.
When does it go before the Senate?
It hasn't gone to the Senate. It's passed the committee,
Oh,
and it's still going, it hasn't gone to the Senate.
We need to put LA tag on that, Christopher Alexander.
Okay, write your senators. It is extraordinarily important. Why is it important? I have a pending lawsuit today and another public records request against Louisiana Economic Development, called LED. What does LED do? It takes your money, and by this I literally mean the money out of your pocket, and it gives it to private individuals. Now, what triggered my last public records request? When I saw that Waiter had gone bankrupt 2 weeks ago. Did you see that? WAITR.
That's the delivery center.
It's a food delivery service.
What?
Okay, went bankrupt.
Of course.
So what did I do? I immediately sent them a public records request. I said, send me all of the money that you've given to Waiter. They've stonewalled me since then. Haven't gotten it since. So I'm going to add them to the lawsuit as soon as I get time over the weekend. Right? But that's what you need to know. You need to know where your money's going. But the public records restrictions that Governor Landry wants deal with the Louisiana Economic Development Department. They don't want you to know the details of the money that they're giving away as incentives and so forth. So keep that in mind. Now, last thing I've got, then I'm going to sit down and eat you guys. The Louisiana Constitution, going back to 1921, and it was rewritten in 1974, has an extraordinary provision called Article 7, Section 14. And Article 7, Section 14 says this: thou shalt not give government and public money to private individuals. Now, that is the safeguard, if used properly, that eliminates the Parish of Jefferson giving money without public bids, giving money away. And it is an extraordinary tool and safeguard. It keeps government from getting involved in private enterprise. No government should wake up tomorrow and say, listen, the parish of Jefferson wants to invest in XYZ garbage company. We're gonna invest and buy 100 shares in XYZ garbage company. Or we're gonna lend money to XYZ garbage company. I just use the garbage as an example. No, not trying to accuse it. Although there's a lot of community to go along. But now, in any event, it's simplistic in its application. It's over 100 years old. And the concept is don't give my money to private enterprise. Governor Landry is intent on a constitutional convention. Now here's the devil in the details. Unless that constitutional convention protects the safeguards in our current constitution, there is a potential for Article 7, Section 14 to be rewritten in the new legislation. It's very, 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 very dangerous. So that's another aspect of what I would urge you to contact your legislators and make sure that they do not do anything that affects the Bill of Rights in the Constitution, as well as Article 7, Section 14. So the latest is that they've said that they're just going to try to streamline the Constitution. We have no need to streamline. I'd rather have this Constitution be 20,000 pages than risk taking away all the good provisions in the Constitution. So the two things, Blue Cross was a successful effort. The example of what you could do if you get a few people together to do the right thing. The second thing is the press certainly did help us, and that was a good takeaway. And the other thing is that these two aspects of public records and the Constitution are well worthy of you looking at. I think these are the most important, I know these are the most important things that the legislature is dealing with this year. So far what's come out of the legislature has not made a structural difference in moving this state forward. It's not going to change. It's not going to stop the brain drain. You know, I saw statistics this morning, supposedly 400 people a day move into Dallas. 400 people a day. So I'll be happy to answer any questions. If anybody, I'll be around for lunch, obviously, and I really appreciate you all taking the time and interest to keep your eyes on government. And you know, it's a struggle. You can't just sit back and coast and think just because so-and-so is elected, everything's going to be okay. That's not the case. So, thank you all very much.
That was a lot of information, and you can actually go back to the Women's Republican Club of New Orleans Facebook page and replay it. And you can share it and you can like it. Okay? I know many of us are on social media. Also, it's on my YouTube channel. It's on I think it's under my name, Martha H. Huckabee. We have it on Twitter. We have it under Martha H. Huckabee on Twitter. We have it on YouTube. We have it on Facebook. And so you have the ability to go back and share and like this so that, you know, you don't have to repeat the information. Sometimes it's too much for you to remember. Go back and share it. This is where, you know, you're able to do your part as a citizen to make sure that other people understand what's going on. That bill that came out of committee that Jeff Landry is supporting to undermine the Constitution, that needs to be stopped immediately. And we'll let LA Tag, Christopher Alexander and his group know. We'll let Susie Labrie, I'm sure they're already aware. They're probably already working on it. But we as the citizens need to call our senators And we need to be, diligent in making those phone calls. And so it's really important for us to be more active and to let our families know what's going on. Republicans need to be held accountable, and we are Republicans. And so as a Republican, we want to make sure that we do hold our elected officials to the fire. They need to do what we put them in office to do. They're serving us, right? Yeah.
What was the reason that Ranger gave towards the public records? Was there something that happened one day?
The reasons are primarily directed to LNG, but to say that any public records that are used in the deliberative early stages of an issue are not subject to public records. So that means while the deal is getting done, you can't understand what they're doing. I was very heavily involved in stopping the Avondale purchase by the Port of South Louisiana. I made enormous public record requests in the middle of the whole process. All right, so all of those records would have been off limits because all they would have had to say is, well, we're still in the middle of negotiations, or we've got this, or we can't let you see, what's in the box. And so it's to stop you seeing the early stages of the deliberation. The other aspect of it is, understand what the Louisiana Economic Development Department does. It hands out cash. It writes checks to individuals and companies to incentivize them to come in and hire. When you see the ad, the story in the newspaper, so-and-so is going to add 100 jobs, and they made the announcement with the Louisiana Economic Development Department. That means they're going to get some cash. That means they're going to get incentives. That's your money, and they don't want you to know.
And they have to pay that back, or?
No.
Yeah, it's just a gift.
But it sounds like I'm dramatizing it. It sounds like I'm making it a hyperbole. Look it up. I mean, and I have no advantage by selling this. It take your time and pick up the phone and call them within Economic Development Department and say you'd like to have some questions answered about incentives. Ask them this question. How many incentives did Louisiana, how much in dollars did Louisiana give in incentives last year? The simple question. Ask them. Who did you go to?
Will they tell you? No.
When you get a chance, King Tut, I got a question.
Go ahead.
Okay, was this John Bell Edwards Obama's idea to sell Bluecross and Blue Shield to this globalist company? Because it sounded like something he would do.
Not, in fact, I think it was just the opposite. I think it was just the opposite, and I wish I could say that. I wish I could paint the blame on that, but the answer is 100% no.
Well, he wanted to invest in Black